Hi everyone, I'm Andy, and this is the AI Breakdown. Welcome to your weekly news edition, where I'll cover what happened in AI last week and why it matters. So that Anthropic and Pentagon story we talked about last week has escalated fast. What was once a procurement spat has developed into something much larger. Anthropic filed 2 federal lawsuits on the 9th of March, one in California and one in the DC circuit, and then followed that on the 12th March with an emergency motion asking the appeals court to pause the Pentagon's supply chain risk designation before it does more damage. And according to reporting reviewed in the briefing, this could turn into a precedent-setting speech case, not just a blacklist fight. Anthropic is arguing the government can't punish a company for advocating safety constraints, and some legal analysts think the statute being used was built for foreign adversaries, not cleanly for a US company. Anthropic's argument is pretty straightforward. It claims the government punished the company for pushing AI safety guardrails and did it without anything resembling a proper reasoned decision. The filing says Pete Hegseth's designation arrived via social media post with no clear statutory basis and no legal or factual explanation. That matters because if you're going to brand an American AI company as a national security supply chain risk, you'd hope for something a touch more substantial than a post on the internet. The commercial hit looks serious too. Anthropic told the court the designation could cost it hundreds of millions, possibly multiple billions, in 2026 revenue. More than 100 enterprise customers have already contacted the company asking what this means for their deployments, according to the company's 12th March filing. If you're a buyer in a defense-adjacent industry, that's the practical bit. You don't need to have a view on constitutional law to know this creates immediate procurement risk. What's particularly significant this week was the industry reaction. More than 30 employees from OpenAI and Google DeepMind signed an amicus brief backing Anthropic. Jeff Dean was among them. Staff at rival Frontier Labs publicly supporting a competitor against the US government is not routine behavior in this industry. This indicates that at least part of the AI workforce views this as larger than one company's commercial issue. They view it as a test of whether the government can penalize firms for advocating safety constraints. Microsoft filed its own separate brief too, urging the court to block the government's move temporarily. This is striking for a different reason. Microsoft isn't exactly a neutral observer here. It has its own platform interests, its own cloud ambitions, and plenty of reasons not to make life easier for a rival ecosystem. And yet here it is, effectively saying this blacklist move goes too far. My view is pretty simple. The cross-company support is the story, but not just because it's unusual. It tells you where part of the industry thinks the red line is. When people at OpenAI and Google back Anthropic in public, they're saying this isn't about one company's PR. They're saying government pressure against safety advocacy is dangerous for the whole field. That's a much bigger signal than any single court filing. And honestly, it's a fairly blunt message to anyone who'd rather brush safety aside because it gets in the way of commercial momentum. The March 24th hearing is now the key date to watch, especially as it was moved up from the 3rd of April. If Anthropic wins a stay, the commercial damage pauses. If it doesn't, plenty of buyers are going to have to make some awkward decisions quickly. This backdrop makes the next story even more intriguing. As Anthropic is engaging in a legal battle with the Pentagon, Microsoft is opting to deepen its relationship with them. On the 9th of March, Microsoft announced Copilot Cowork, a new cloud-based AI agent for Microsoft 365 powered by Anthropic's Claude Opus 4.6. And this isn't some tucked-away model option for power users. It's a deep integration into the core workflow of Outlook, Teams, Excel, PowerPoint, and the rest of the Microsoft 365 stack. Microsoft says it can pull from your emails, meetings, messages, files, and data across the suite, then turn your request into a plan and carry it out across the suite. You tell it the outcome you want, something like prepare the quarterly review using last month's sales data and the feedback buried in Teams, and it works across the suite to build the thing. That's the real shift here. We've had plenty of AI assistants that help inside one app at a time. Draft an email, summarize a meeting, clean up a slide, fine. Useful but fairly contained. Copilot Cowork is Microsoft saying the next stage is orchestration, not just helping with one task, but stitching together a whole chain of them across your digital workplace. And for me at least, this has been a big gap in their offering. There are two strategic angles that matter. First, Microsoft is giving Anthropic a very visible role in its most important enterprise software franchise. Claude isn't just behind the scenes. Frontier users also get Claude as a general-purpose model option in Copilot chat alongside OpenAI models. That feels like a proper signal. Second, Microsoft is leaning into model choice. The company has spent years being seen, fairly reasonably, as joined at the hip with OpenAI. But this move says something different. It says customers don't want one model forced on them forever. They want optionality. They want the model that works best for the task, the workflow, the governance requirement, or frankly, the internal politics of the business. And Microsoft would quite like to be the place where that choice happens. In its own language, the pitch is a multi-model advantage, with Copilot choosing the right model for the job rather than locking work to one provider. The pricing tells you who they think this is for. Copilot Cowork comes in through the Frontier program at $30 per user per month, and Microsoft has also introduced a new Microsoft 365 E7 tier at $99 per user per month that bundles it with broader AI capabilities. E7 was announced on March 9th and sits well above the current E5 tier, so this is clearly aimed at larger companies with real AI budgets. This isn't being pitched as a simple add-on for curious teams. It's enterprise pricing for organizations wanting agentic workflow automation that justifies the premium. My take is that Microsoft's move to integrate Anthropic feels like hedging, but in a smart way. It's not walking away from OpenAI, it's building leverage and offering customers choice. And from the buyer side, that's good news. Most companies don't actually want a one-size-fits-all AI stack. They want room to compare models, reduce dependency, and avoid waking up one day to find their strategic partner has become their sole choice. Anthropic seems to understand that selling into big companies isn't just about a flashy model. According to Anthropic's March 12th announcement, it's putting an initial $100 million into a partner network for 2026, plus training, certifications, and direct technical support. This looks like Anthropic trying to build the partner and support muscle big companies expect before they roll this out widely. The larger question remains whether Copilot Cowork genuinely saves enough time across varied real-world workflows to justify its cost and navigate any change management hurdles efficiently. But as a statement of direction, this is a big one. AI in Office software is moving from being an assistant to more of a coordinator. Now, a quick word from our sponsor. This episode is sponsored by Notify Technology, a health and safety software partner, helping teams run incident management, audits and inspections, and risk assessments in one place. And with Notify Spark, their AI companion, they're streamlining incident reporting and investigations, saving time, reducing admin load, and helping teams act faster on what matters. Learn more at notifytechnology.com. If the Microsoft story represents the polished side of enterprise AI optimism, Oracle presents a much harsher reality on capital allocation. Bloomberg reported Oracle plans between 20,000 and 30,000 layoffs, which amounts to roughly 12% to 18% of its workforce of about 162,000 people, to free up about $8 billion to $10 billion for AI infrastructure. That is a significant number by any measure, and it's not just trimming around the edges. Sales and marketing have already seen roll-in layoffs, open roles are under review, and Oracle has added another $500 million to its restructuring budget, bringing the total to $2.1 billion. The reason is straightforward. AI infrastructure is highly costly, and Oracle has undertaken massive commitments. It has a $156 billion deal with OpenAI, which requires 3 million GPUs over 5 years. At the same time, lenders are becoming cautious about financing all this. Fortune reported that several US banks have scaled back support for Oracle's data center expansion, and analysts reviewed by the magazine expect Oracle to run negative free cash flow for several years. The company also carries more than $100 billion in debt. This isn't really a story about robots taking jobs. It's a story about executives deciding GPUs matter more than payroll. Oracle is effectively turning people into compute budget, and I think that's one of the clearest pictures we've had yet of what the AI transition actually looks like inside a large company. It's not futuristic, it's financial. The challenge is that customers don't experience this as a capital strategy. They experience it as slower support, stretched account teams, longer product cycles, and more hurdles when something fails. A workforce reduction of this size invariably impacts service quality, even if the official stance is that the cuts are targeted and strategic. My assessment is Oracle is making a significant pivot because it believes its future relevance hinges on owning enough AI infrastructure to make a difference. And perhaps they're right, but it's a risky gamble. If AI demand aligns with their timeline, this looks like discipline. If it doesn't, it can appear as though they weaken the existing business to fund a very costly bet. And Oracle is not the only company making this trade-off look unpleasant. Block has trimmed more than 4,000 jobs, nearly 40% of its workforce, and Jack Dorsey has been unusually explicit about the rationale. In his February 26th letter to shareholders, he stated, "A significantly smaller team using the tools we're building can do more and do it better," and then predicted that most companies would reach the same conclusion within a year. My read is that both things are true at once. AI may well be making some teams more productive, but this also looks like old-fashioned over-hiring correction wrapped in a very modern story. And that distinction matters because if every restructuring gets sold as AI efficiency, we'll lose the ability to tell genuine capability shifts from convenient corporate spin. Still, the language matters. Dorsey has effectively stated the quiet part out loud. He's not talking about AI as just a helper or a productivity boost on the side. He's framing it as a reason to redesign the company with significantly fewer people. Let's continue on infrastructure because NVIDIA opened GTC 2026, and as is customary, Jensen Huang arrived with a leather jacket and a roadmap large enough to make everyone else's product plans seem temporary. NVIDIA's headline announcement was Vera Rubin, its next AI platform, and the big takeaway is simple. It is built to make the next wave of AI systems much bigger, faster, and more efficient. With 288 gigabytes of new high-speed memory, and NVIDIA claiming up to 5 times better inference performance than the current generation, it should help AI tools handle more data, give answers faster, and cost less to operate over time. GTC itself runs from the 16th to the 19th March in San Jose, with attendees from 190 countries. So this isn't just another product launch. It's an event the rest of the industry uses to recalibrate. However, the software announcement might be equally significant for enterprise buyers. NVIDIA is launching NemoClaw, an open-source enterprise AI agent platform meant to allow companies to deploy multi-step AI agents across enterprise systems in a model-agnostic manner. That's classic NVIDIA strategy. Don't just sell the chips. Define the layer above the chips as well. According to its own State of AI report, released ahead of GTC, 87% of surveyed companies reported annual cost reductions from AI, 86% plan to raise AI budgets this year, and 44% either deployed or assessed AI agents in 2025. You can question the survey's optimism if you like, and I usually do, but the direction is fairly evident. In my opinion, this is NVIDIA at its best. They're not only setting the performance ceiling, they are attempting to define the operational model too. If NemoClaw takes off, NVIDIA enhances its role as the infrastructure layer for agentic AI, not just the company you contact when you need more GPUs. A few weeks back, we discussed the 11th March deadline for the FTC's AI policy statement. Well, the deadline came and went, and now the real debate ensues. The FTC has issued its statement on how existing consumer protection law applies to AI, and the basic argument is aggressive. If a model reflects the underlying data, then forcing developers to change outputs to reduce bias could make those outputs less truthful, and therefore deceptive under federal law. It's a very aggressive stance, aimed at countering state-level AI rules regarding bias, transparency, and accountability. At the same time, the Commerce Department has published its review of state AI laws viewed as too burdensome or conflicting with federal policy, and the Attorney General's AI Litigation Task Force is positioned to challenge them. So this is no longer theoretical, the machinery is in motion. What complicates matters is that states continue to legislate regardless. Washington State just passed HB 2225, a chatbot safety bill And nationally, there are 78 chatbot bills active across 27 states. So the federal government is attempting to centralize policy precisely as states are accelerating in the opposite direction. For businesses, a single national standard might be appealing in theory. It's supposed to simplify compliance. In practice, right now, it does the opposite because nobody knows how far this preemption theory will hold up in court. Policy statements aren't laws. Courts may completely reject the FTC's stance. My view is that while centralizing AI governance sounds neat, once the lawsuits begin, and they have, it becomes quite complex. So indeed, keep an eye on this development. Right, let's move quickly through a few more stories before we wrap up. First, Anthropic has launched the Anthropic Institute, a new research arm led by co-founder Jack Clark and focused on AI's societal impact, economic effects, and frontier risk. The timing is not subtle, launching a serious public benefit research outfit while fighting the Pentagon over safety guardrails is Anthropic making its case with structure, not just slogans. Second, Anthropic also published a report accusing DeepSeek, Moonshot AI and Minimax of conducting distillation attacks against Claude through more than 24,000 fraudulent accounts and over 16 million interactions. If these claims hold, it's a reminder that API access also entails exposure, and that IP protection in AI remains a bit of a mess. And third, Enterprise Connect 2026 had one dominant mood: prove it. The conversation shifted from AI can do amazing things to show me the ROI, show me the guardrails, and show me the rollback plan if the shiny new agent starts freelancing. Honestly, it's a healthy shift. The market is maturing a bit. That's all for this week's AI Roundup. If you found value in this breakdown, please leave a rating and hit subscribe. See you next week.